Hi everyone, Jesse here with eTrailer. Today we'll be taking a look at and I'll show you how to install the Curt custom fit trailer wiring on our 2025 Kia Telluride. Trailer wiring is going to be one of those things that's just absolutely essential if you plan on doing any kind of towing with your vehicle. What it does is it will send a signal from the tail lights on your vehicle to the lights on your trailer or your light up accessory to make those lights function properly. So that means tail lights, turn signals, and brake lights, and that'll keep you safe and legal out there on the road. Here's a closer look at it installed on our neighbor's vehicle. You could purchase a couple brackets separately to get it permanently mounted, but honestly, hanging it by the dust cover on your safety cable loop is just fine. That dust cover is going to be there to protect it from any road grime or debris that might get in there. And other than that, it's just your standard 4-pole connector that's going to work with any of your standard trailer connectors. Really, that's about all there is to it. It's just one of those things that you have to have if you plan on towing. And as for the installation process, it's honestly pretty simple. You do have to run some wires from the tail lights to the front of the vehicle to hook up to your battery. So I'd understand if it's not something that you're looking to do yourself, maybe you don't have the time or the space or the tools, feel free to check out our dealer locator. You can find someone local to you that would be more than happy to help you get this installed. If you have installed this before and you just want to share some tips or tricks with us, please feel free to leave a review or a comment. But otherwise, if you're looking to see how this gets installed, just follow along and I'll walk you through the process. We'll start our installation by removing our tail lights. I'll start over here on the driver's side. It's going to be the same process on the passenger side. We'll want to pop this plastic panel off here. If you pull it towards the inside, away from the tail light, it should release the clips. So if you have a plastic trim tool like this, you can just kind of run it down and go one clip at a time and release them. Once you have all those clips released, you should be able to pull it straight back like that and set it aside. And behind that, we have 3 10mm bolts to remove. And with those removed, we can pull our taillights straight out. There's just a couple of tabs holding it in now. Once you get those to release, we will unplug it. So you see this black plug here. You want to push down on that tab and pull out. And now we'll set our tail light aside. So now from below, we need to feed our yellow wires up. So what I've done is just ran some airline tubing from the top down and I taped up our wires to that. I can already tell it's going to be a pretty tight squeeze, so I will remove these push pin fasteners. And that'll give us just a little bit of wiggle room by pulling this fascia back. So now I'll pull up on my fish wire, make sure we aren't getting caught on anything before we get to the fascia. So as you can see, it took a little bit of fighting to get that to pull through, but if you just work with it, it will come all the way through. And then we'll just take our airline tubing off. So you'll see our plug here matches perfectly with our factory plug. We'll just push them together until you hear that click. That means they're engaged. We're going to leave our tail light off for now. I just plugged it in so that this will hold our wiring up while we're working underneath. So with most of our wiring, we're going to end up tucking it up on top of this panel here. So I'm going to have to take it down to get it out of our way for now. There's going to be a few push pin fasteners here. Just use a flathead screwdriver, or if you have a tool like this, and pop the center out. And these come out pretty easy. And once you have those 3 out, there's going to be 2 plastic nuts up there, and you'll need a 14mm socket. Sometimes you can get them by hand, but especially if you already have a hitch installed like this, it's going to be pretty difficult. We can set that aside for now. Before we get our black box and everything kind of tucked away, I'm going to extend out our black wire. This is going to be our power wire, so we will have to run it to the battery on the vehicle. You will notice in your kit that you have some extra black wire. We'll just have to strip that back and connect it to the wire coming off the box. You will also have some regular butt connectors in your kit, but anytime we're working outside the vehicle, I'll almost always recommend a heat shrink style butt connector like this. It's just going to make a nice watertight seal. I'll just slip that wire in there and crimp it together. And then I'll heat that up and make sure it shrinks and creates that seal. For our black box, you can use some of the included double-sided tape and just press it down and hold it for a bit to make a nice seal to the bottom of this plastic piece here. That should hold just fine. Then our white wire is our ground wire. We'll use the included self-tapper. And really you can put this just about anywhere that's solid metal. I just like to find a pretty thick piece to drive it in, and I already pre-drilled my hole, so I'll get that attached. For our green wire, we'll have to route that to our passenger side, so I'll kind of show you the route I took. I will zip tie this up so it's nice and tight, but you just want to make sure you're staying up above all the tabs that are holding our fascia on, and then of course above the fascia here so we stay away from our hot exhaust. And then once you get to this point, it's just a matter of doing that same fish wire technique to pull it up into our taillight pocket. Then the routing for our black wire, you just want to stay away from any hot or moving parts. So I went above our subframe here, made sure to stay away from all the control arms. And then we're up above our fuel filler hose here. And once you get to this point, you'll want to pull down this panel here. There's a couple of 10mm bolts holding it in and some more of those 14mm plastic nuts. So once you pull all those down, you just kind of drape it up above that, because once we reinstall that hardware, it'll be tucked up nice and neat. But we just followed that little skid plate here until we came out to this point. And once you get here, we'll have to do another fish wire from inside the engine bay. And we'll want to follow all of these hoses so that we can have something to zip tie off to. So I fished our black wire up through the engine bay and just kind of routing it away from anywhere anybody would need to be servicing something like the air filter. But what I'll do is cut off some slack. We'll take our fuse holder, make sure that there's no fuse installed on it before we get it all hooked up. But we'll cut this in half. One end we'll get a heat shrink butt connector again, and that's what we'll attach to our black wire. And then the other end we'll get a ring terminal so we can attach it to our post on our positive side of our battery here. Now we'll plug in our fuse. And once this is plugged in, we can put our taillights back together, and then we'll test everything, make sure it's working properly. Now we have our 4-pole tester plugged in, which is available here at eTrailer, or you could always hook up to your trailer to make sure everything's working properly. But I just turned our tail lights on. Now I'll go through the rest of the signals. Left turn, right turn, and brakes. Now that we know everything's working properly, the last thing to do is just make sure all of your wires are buttoned up. But other than that, that's going to do it for our look at and installation of the Curt custom fit trailer wiring on our 2025 Kia Telluride.